In this video, I'm going to talk about concealing your numbers during movement during winter weather or winter time frames. This can also translate over to moving in the desert or very soft dirt environments and that stuff. Areas where you're going to leave footprints easily that can be seen and they're going to last a while. As you see right now, we have a trail over here of footprints and a trail over here of footprints. Now, in winter time, your main concern is concealing your numbers, not letting the enemy know how large your force is, how many people you have. So what you typically do is you travel ranger file, one behind another, so you just leave that one path moving through. They're going to find out the direction you're going. It's going to happen. Not a hell of a lot you can do on that. That's why concealing your numbers is the top priority. Now, I'm not a tracker. I only know a few things on tracking, just some basics for telling the direction of movement. Now, on these two tracks here, if you look at the prints, it shows indications of moving out and also moving back on both of them. See if I can show you good indications though. Now, on this footprint though, when a person's stepping in on snow, you'll see there's a drag mark here as their foot's coming down, and then it places the heel here, toe there. And then when the person's foot lifts up, they're still moving forward. They're going to dig a little bit of the snow out with it, and it's going to pile to the front. So that indicates the direction of travel. You have the slope for when the foot's coming down. When it's coming out, it leaves a little bits of snow on the front edge. So that'll help for people trying to track. And yes, I can see it's not adjusting the way it's supposed to for blurriness. It's because of the light and the no color for it to adjust to. Now, when you're moving through wooded areas, doing ranger file, that's kind of recommended. But what about if you got to cross a big open area, a big snow field? Well, there's some ways you can do it to still maintain your security, spread yourself out, so you're not going to get taken out by a single mortar round, single burst of machine gun, or a single artillery round. When you're moving in wintertime, think of it like in a desert. I've mentioned it before on, I think, some of the rant videos and stuff. When we were in the desert, we were moving on foot. We spread out our formations, where typically in wooded areas you might have 25 meters or 10 meters between your people and your formations. In the desert, we move 25 meters, 50 meters or more between people in our very spread out formations. So think along those same lines when you're moving through the snow. Let's see here. See if I can set you up right. Now, we're moving from woods. We're going to be crossing a wide open area. So we got the edge of our wood line here. Now when we come up, we're going to be in ranger file, and then we're going to have to spread out. Now typically if we go into a wedge, it's going to be pretty obvious. You know, we'll have 2-3 people on one side, 2-3 people on the other, and we'll have our point man. But we're still trying to conceal our numbers. So what can we do? Maybe when we cross the field, we bring it down to just 3 people across or 2 people. But we come up to the edge of our our IV line, we'll put our machine gunner, our saw gunner in the center. He's going to be covering the front, and then our people are going to start moving to the right and left, and then they'll set up their quick security. You should already have this practiced and get an idea, so everyone's lined up. I have a 9 little sand table training aids here. We got a 9-man squad. We're going to get everyone up there roughly on line, and then we're going to start pushing forward. When we push forward, we'll still go into basically our wedge, but we're going to do only 3 people. So we're going to have one was moving forward, and then off on his flanks, spread way out. We'll be moving forward as a 3-person wedge. And remember, they'll be leaving tracks behind them. And then they'll separate from the next element, say at least 50 meters. Or depending on the size of this wide open danger area, this field we're trying to cross, maybe they'll get to the other side, secure the area, and then the next wedge will move forward. But we're still going to maintain pretty good distance between each wedge. So these guys would move all the way forward to the next tree line, or they move 50 meters, whatever it is. Then the next wedge is going to move forward. Our next batch of 3. That machine gun, that saw will still stay in back to provide covering fire. And then after this group would get their 50 meters or whatever forward, or they reach the tree line on the other side of the field, then the last 3 would cross. Now, let's say we're going to change this up, because you should always change your tactics so the enemy doesn't. So the enemy doesn't learn your patterns and is able to counter it. Maybe the next time we cross, we'll just cross 2 people. Well, in that case, we could have them potentially side by side, spread out a good distance, at least 25-50 meters between them. You could have them online, but I don't really recommend it. I would recommend having one person farther forward, and they move forward like that. And then the same thing, 50 meters, they move up, then the next 2 would start. So then these guys would make it their 50 meters all the way out, or they make it up to the tree line. Well, then our next 2 starts. And then maybe in this one we'll alternate it. Instead of having our farther ahead on the left on this next one, maybe we'll put him on the right with the left guy offset to the back. And we cross that way till everyone's on the other side of this wide open area. We're back in the forest or the wooded area, or back under cover. Then we'll do our quick security halt, accountability, get back into our ranger file, and continue forward. Now, if you have any types of sleds, Accios and that stuff, I would probably put them in the center going across, and then you would have your flankers for security providing some cover. The very first group that would go across, the first 3, first 2 would not have an Accio. The Accios should move with the groups behind them. The Accios, the sleds will conceal your footprints a bit, but it'll leave a pretty obvious trail at the same time. So when you put your footsteps down, this is a major thing you need to remember. Step in the footprints of the person that went in front of you, so that you're concealing your numbers. They may see that there's 3 trails, but if everyone walks in the footsteps of the person in front of them, all it'll show is that there's 3 trails that went across. It won't tell them how many people crossed. Conceal your numbers. This also works when you're on guard duty. If you're pulling guard duty, you're on roving guard around a perimeter. Step in the footsteps of the person that was on guard duty before you that traveled that same area, or step in your own footsteps. That also assists with being able to tell if someone's coming in. You'll see that separate trail of tracks that doesn't line up. That's a pretty good indication that someone is, you know, crossed into the area who shouldn't be there. So, you know, conceal your numbers, walk in the steps of the person in front of you, or in your own footsteps. I gave you some indications to look for on the footprints to show you the direction of movement if you come across a trail in snow. It does work in dirt and sand also, but it's not as noticeable. But you'll still be able to see the prints and that stuff. You can also somewhat tell by the boot print itself or footprint itself in the snow or the sand or the dirt, the direction the person's going by the pattern. But that doesn't always work out. I know there have been countries that did kind of a reverse pattern on their boots in the past to conceal the direction of travel, so that you were moving, you know, forward, but your footprints, the way your sole is on your boots, showed that you were actually going that way. That type of thing has been done in the past. But trying to think if there's any other little tips I can give you on moving in winter time. Trailing pine boughs, evergreen boughs and stuff behind you to conceal your tracks. It can be done if the snow is not melted, if it's newly fallen snow. It isn't wet, it's not clumping together. It helps, but if it's like this stuff where it's really wet, it clumps together easily and stuff, trailing pine boughs behind you isn't going to do squat. It's not going to get the snow to shift together, you know, and conceal your direction. I recommend for movement during winter time, try to do it when the snow is falling or the snow is blowing. That'll help conceal your tracks also. So try to stay to tree line as much as possible. Follow animal trails if there's any in the area. That helps conceal your path also. So watch your trash. That's a big indicator in winter time because, you know, it's white. Any trash that gets tossed down, even a cigarette butt, it's gonna stick out like a flare at nighttime. So those are the main points I can think of. If anyone else has any other tips, put them in the comment section. Now, for all my engineer brothers in the Patriot and Militia movements, always remember, essayons.